All right, folks, we're back with part two of the Malzberg panel. Criminal defense attorney Janet Johnson and radio host and author Kevin Jackson. And before we get to the Middle East, something else that I addressed earlier in the show with Senator Johnson, and something he brought up at a hearing yesterday, was the fate of Sergeant Tamarisi, who yesterday had a court date in Mexico and was ordered to remain held in jail. The State Department told the senator yesterday they're working on it. But you know, this is something that's never crossed the lips of the president, not in public anyway. It's just reprehensible in my mind, Janet, that an American Marine who was scheduled to go back to active duty was treated like a dog tied, to a bed in Mexico for all to see, and is still being held there.
There's a lot of outrage on Twitter, which is where, I get a lot of my news from there. I don't know if I should admit it, but people have been tweeting to me about this for a while, and I hadn't heard about it. I'm embarrassed to say that's how I learned about it. So I think you're right. It's not getting the coverage. I don't know what's happening behind the scenes, and I hope that this is something that, people will start talking about, something will happen, and he comes home. Obviously, that's what everyone wants. I don't know what's happening behind the scenes, so I can't speak to that, but I think it does need to be covered. It's a good thing you're talking about it.
What about it, Kevin? The president, shouldn't the president go down to the border and while he's there shout out, hey, Mexico, let our Marine go?
I don't even know how this has gotten to this point, to be honest with you, Steve. Barack Obama talks about having his pen and his phone. And given all the aid that we allow to go to Mexico, with all of the amnesty that we've shown to illegals in this country, you think this would have been resolved within an hour of Tamarisi being in Mexico. And I think what it shows, quite honestly, is the level of clout, the lack of clout that we now have as a country, to where a country like Mexico, who is pretty much at the beholden to the American tax-paying citizen and beholden to Barack Obama, the commander-in-chief, and he would leave this guy there. I think it's atrocious, and the fact that the media is not covering it just shows how, I think, in the bag they are for Barack Obama. If Bush left this Marine in Mexico, I think it would be splattered all over the news.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, without a doubt. And we have had the mother of Sergeant Tamarisi, Jill Tamarisi. In fact, we're probably going to have her tomorrow as well. It's been now well over 100 days that he's been held there. All right, let's go to the Middle East, and let's go to what's going on with Israel. And let's talk about the media coverage again. First of all, the media refuses to call Hamas terrorists by a 9-to-1. They call them militants or fighters or soldiers. And all we hear is the Palestinian death toll and how disproportionate it is, because no Israelis have died in these rocket attacks. Kevin, it's something that Israel's always going to have to live with, I guess.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like in football, the guy who strikes back, who retaliates, is the one who ends up in trouble. I don't think it's any surprise that the media is sort of looking at Israel as being the bad guy when 3 of their teenagers got kidnapped and brutalized and left and dead, that were killed, obviously. And then, the Israelis, by the way, have found and arrested the 6 people involved with the killing of the Palestinian teen. But it's all right. Israel's fault. Again.
Right. And by the way, they won't be naming any soccer stadiums after those 6 either. Janet, final word on the media coverage of the war against Hamas?
No, I mean, I agree with you guys on this. Israel's in a position where they're dealing with people. Everyone's saying Netanyahu's response is going to, there won't be peace. There won't be peace when you live next to people who say, we don't think you should exist, and who celebrate when your children are killed. So, they're dealing with terrorists. If it was the United States and it was our children, we would do the exact same thing. They have a right to defend their children. And then they punish the people who commit a murder. They treat it like a murder. It's not warfare when you kill a baby.
All right, guys, really appreciate it. Janet Johnson and Kevin Jackson, thank you both for being on the Malzberg panel. We'll be back with Mary Madeline and more of the show. But first, this hour's America's Moment takes a look back at the fall of the Berlin Wall. You won't want to miss this one. Watch.
It was erected in the dead of night, and for 28 years separated East Germany from West Germany. The Berlin Wall quickly came to symbolize the stark difference between the free West and the communist East. In June of 1987, President Reagan visited the wall at the famous Brandenburg Gate and used the occasion to issue 2 public challenges to then Soviet Premier Mikhail Gorbachev.
If you seek liberalization, come here to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate.
His second challenge was more blunt, and as it turned out, even more prophetic.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
On November 9th, 1989, 2 years, 5 months, and 1 day after President Reagan's famous challenge, that is exactly what happened. Only the Soviets didn't tear down the wall, the people of Berlin did. Once the East German government announced their borders to the West were open, the free people on both sides of the wall worked in unison to chip it away, piece by piece, until this monument to tyranny was completely destroyed. You're watching An American Moment on Newsmax TV.